Today we're starting part 2 of our investigation with rocks. So our question today that we're focusing on is what happens when rocks are placed in water? So we're continuing to look at those properties of rocks. And I brought one of my old posters up here that kind of highlights different properties, length, flexibility, patterns. It talks about stripes or spots. Is it man-made or natural? And there's smell and texture, shape, size. So we will focus the rest of the school year on properties. So right now it's properties of rocks. So let's continue to see what happens to rocks. Do their properties stay the same or do they change when they're placed in water? So what you're going to be doing today is take the rocks you have at home. I'll use the ones I have here and show you. So I've got some water, and you can get some water at home in a cup. And we want to think about this. Here's our questions. Did the rocks change when you put them in water? How? So I'll let you see mine up close. Is there anything you can see now that you couldn't see when the rocks were dry? Do you see any patterns? What happened to the water after you put the rocks in? All right, so what I'm going to do is enlarge my screen and let's start this investigation. So what we're going to do is keep one dry of each so that you can see the differences. So let's start with my red one right here. So I'm going to put it in water. And I've kind of gotten it wet all around. Now, I want you to compare the two. What's different about this one that I placed in water? It's darker. Yeah, the color's a lot more bold. Very different from this one here, which is more dusty looking. So the change in color is the big change I noticed here. Okay, let's try these. So I have my two gray ones. So I'm going to put one in water. Again, it has gotten darker in color. Look closely though. Do you see how some of those color patterns, they look a little, earlier we could see stripes. Well, we see the light gray spots on it here or here, but they're not as noticeable to me on this rock. Now that it's wet, it's gotten very dark in color. Now let's look at these right here. So these are my kind of my tannish color rocks. So go ahead and look at them before. And let's put one of them in water. Oh, and there's actually bubbles coming up when I put it in the water. I wonder if any of your rocks will do that. Wow, this one changed quite a bit. Look at how dark it is, and it's not the same color at all. So do you notice the reddish color to it here? And then over here, there's some redness right there. Sometimes with these, it depends on which ones you have, you'll end up seeing stripes. But these have a lot bolder color. I'm going to get the other one wet just to see. Well, these do not happen to be ones that are striped. Right here, I can see a main stripe down it, probably from where the rock was formed. Look at the back, has a lot more white. Oh, look at this pattern on this side. See all the spots on it? It's very interesting. So they change quite a bit when they're wet. So I'm interested to see what you'll notice about your rocks at home. So what you're going to do, I also want you can try this at home, but you can take your water and pour some of the water off and see what's left. What I can already see in the bottom of my cup is a lot of that powder from where I rubbed the rocks, so the weathering of the rocks. A lot of that extra tiny pieces of sand or rock are left in the bottom of my cup. And I wonder if you'll see that in your cup also. Where did it come from? It came from the rocks. It's those little pieces that are getting washed away, or remember we said that are weathered from the rocks bumping together. They weather, so there's loose pieces of rock, and now we're washing those away. So I want to tell you a little bit about my 3 rocks. And I think you'll find this real interesting, and I'm hoping to find a good video to share with y'all about these. So the first one, the gray, is called basalt. Say it with me, basalt. That is the one that's grayish in color. It's hard, like I told you. It was once hot liquid lava that came out of a volcano. So isn't that cool? That was part of a volcano at one point. It was the lava. Then the lava hardened up in time. So think about this tan color rock. It's called tuff. Tuff is our lightest in color, and it is a soft rock. Remember how that powder just rubbed right off on my hand? I said it would be good for drawing on the concrete. So it is a softer. Now that doesn't mean to us it feels soft, but rocks are measured by scientists, geologists on the hardness, how hard it is for them to break or weather. It is made from the ash of the fires of the volcano. So they're both volcanic rocks, but just different. This one comes from lava. This one comes from ash. And then this one, which most of you probably looked at and thought that looks like a volcanic rock, is called scoria. Scoria is the reddish, bubbly looking rock. It was once the very bubbly top of the lava. So the gray was part of the liquid lava, more that underneath layer, and then the scoria was that bubbly top part of the lava and rocks. So that's pretty cool to know that all three of those rocks look completely different, but they all came from a volcano and they have different properties. So it's pretty interesting to me just to look at the different properties, but to know they all started out as part of that volcano. So let's review a couple of our terms real quick that we've been working on before you journal. Shiny. These are going to be property words. Is a rock shiny? Does it have that bright, polished look? Bubble. Does it have pockets where air formed that you can see in the rock? Dull. If something's dull, it doesn't have a lot of shine to it. So that would basically be an antonym for shiny. Dull. So some rocks have more of a dull finish. Like I would say parts of this gray one are very dull. There's times you can find sparkly pieces in there, but I would also say this is dull. It's not very shiny right now. A pattern. So a pattern is something that helps you identify rocks. It might be spots, it might be stripes. Basalt. That was our gray rock that was liquid lava. Tuff is our light tan rock that came from the ash of a volcano, and scoria was our red bubbly rock from the top of the lava. So those are just some definitions of the rocks and terms that we can use to describe properties of rocks. So now you're going to write in your journal and tell me what happened to your rocks when you put them in water. You don't have to write a lot. One sentence is fine, but I do ask that you write it in sentence form. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our investigation.